Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Employer. Today we are meeting NHS Digital. But just before we do, what I wanted to say was just to welcome both Claire and also Carol, who are helping us with our captions in our BSL today. So thank you very much for joining us. Now, this Meet the Employer is a very special one. This will be recorded and it will be on the Hive. So if you want to go back and watch this session, you're more than welcome to do so. It's a very, very interactive session. It's your opportunity to meet NHS Digital and ask them all those really important questions that you have around their diversity and inclusion with regards to their recruitment process. We're going to give you lots of options to interact with NHS Digital today. So you can get onto the chat box and start chatting away, because we actually have both Toby and the NHS who are here to answer your questions via the chat box. There will be a formal Q&A session also at the end if you want to ask any questions. Just wanted to do a quick check before we got started that our captions are working and all's good. Fantastic. So there will be a poll at the very end of this session as well. We really value your feedback. It lets us know what you think of the session and if you got value from it. But without further ado, I want to introduce you to the fabulous team at NHS Digital. And today, on Meet the Employer, we have Julie, John, Amanda, and Mercy here today. So what I would like to do is if you could all just introduce yourselves, your role, and why you're here today. Let's start off with John.
Good afternoon. I'm John Cater. So I'm one of the recruitment business partners within NHS Digital, sitting in the central recruitment team. So I have lots of involvement in the whole recruitment process, both in its day-to-day operation, but also looking at how we can improve it and how we can make it as accessible as possible.
That's a big role that you have. I'm sure lots of our candidates will have questions that they'll want to ask you today, John. Thank you. I'd also like to introduce Amanda. Amanda, I think you may be on mute. We just need you to unmute. Why don't we come back to Amanda? We've also got Mercy, who's here today. Mercy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Mercy and I work in the communications and marketing team. So I'm looking at how we can work with a range of organisations such as Even Break to get the word out about what it is that we do, but also to attract candidates to work with us. And that's a diverse range of candidates, which is why we are excited to be part of this event.
Thank you. And I know that Mercy's probably going to be coming on to chat and chatting to you all in the chat box. So please feel free to have a conversation with her. Amanda, are you there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I've been here all the time. Okay, so thank you for inviting me. My name is Amanda Wogan, and I'm here today. So I wear a couple of different hats at work, I think it's fair to say. But I'm here today as the senior workforce sponsor for NHS Digital's Disability Network, which we call our Ability Network.
Fantastic. And I know that you're going to be sharing some stories about its success and its impact across NHS Digital with us a little later. Julie, I would like you to introduce yourself, your role, and why you're here today, and I'll kick off and ask you a question.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Delighted that you could join us today in this Meet the Employer event. I'm Julie Pinder and I'm the Chief People Officer for NHS Digital. And as other colleagues have said, it's really important for me that we can reach out to our community and to potential candidates for some of the really exciting opportunities that we've got in NHS Digital. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today, Rosa.
The NHS, okay, is a huge operation. And then we have NHS Digital. What the heck is NHS Digital? What do you actually do?
It's a great question because before I joined NHS Digital, I didn't really know much about what we did either. So brilliant opening question. So we are an official arm's length body of the Department of Health and Social Care. And our official vision, if you like, our official accountability is to, I'll read it, is to be the National Digital Data and Technology Delivery Partner for the NHS and the social care system. So we have expertise in the design, development and operation of complex IT and data systems. That sounds great, but what does it actually mean? So we run some really critical national infrastructure. I don't need to get into the technical details, but it's called the spine and it helps data flow across the NHS and social care systems. We have about 1 billion transactions through that infrastructure on a monthly basis, so it's huge and it's really critical. It has to be maintained and up 24/7 to allow the NHS to run effectively. Some of the things that I think may be more relevant to people on this call, through the pandemic, you will have seen a lot of things around accessing tests, looking at booking appointments for testing, for vaccinations, and NHS Digital have been instrumental in helping develop those services. I think the thing that probably is in most people's houses now is the thing called the NHS app. So that's the app that's on your mobile phones that helps you look at your kind of GP records, helps you make appointments, gives you your COVID pass status to allow us to travel and move around the country as restrictions and things have been put in place. So there's some of the things that I think people will recognise more, but we have a whole raft of health data that we are responsible for. We are the safe haven of people's and patients' records, which we use to help research. So we do a lot of work with universities and research organisations with that data to help predict what things we may need to do differently in the future. We put dashboards on the NHS website. So again, you may have used dashboards during the pandemic to look at what the cases of COVID were like in your area, what the conditions were in terms of restrictions, and NHS Digital were at the forefront of putting a lot of that data out there. So there's things that you probably use and access, electronic prescription services, for example, so no longer having to go into your GP to get your paper prescription, being able to do that online is a service that NHS Digital is responsible for building. And we work in partnership with a lot of other organisations, including NHS England and some external suppliers. So we do a lot of complex data and technology, but we also actually keep the country safe in terms of maintaining that critical technology infrastructure for data and records to flow through the NHS.
Julie, thank you very much for sharing that. What a mammoth task you all have at NHS Digital. It's really quite incredible, you know, the technology that you're using to help keep us all safe. And I'm, you know, especially during the COVID pandemic, your services must have intensified tenfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a lot of industries found, you know, the demand for NHS Digital services and the demand on the NHS as a system as a whole has been unprecedented, and we have got some recovery work to do. So some of the things that NHS Digital will be focusing on over the coming months and years is how do we help the NHS recover well? So how do we help people understand where they are in the list of, you know, perhaps waiting for an operation or waiting for some treatment? How do we help automate things and put digital enabling tools out there so that people can actually focus their resource on the face-to-face time that they need to have? So we would say that the pandemic, as horrendous as it's absolutely been, has probably moved the digital and technology agenda forward quite significantly in the NHS. And we won't be going back to how we used to do things before the pandemic. So as intense as it's been, Rosa, and people have really worked, you know, significantly to deliver this, it's really been a massively positive experience for our organisation in terms of advancing the digital agenda.
Can you give us an idea of how large your operation is? How many people do you employ in NHS Digital? And are all the roles digital? Are they all remote, or do you work out of offices?
Okay, so we have around 3,000 permanent employees. We also have currently, and this doubled during the pandemic, we have around 1,000 contractors and temporary workers who work with us. And then we have another cohort of supply through perhaps external suppliers like IBM or other tech organisations who help build things with us. So all in all, we're probably around 5,500 people strong as an organisation. In terms of, is it only tech roles? No, it's not only tech roles, and you don't have to be a clinician or have any kind of qualifications in medicine to work in NHS Digital. Some of our colleagues do, obviously, but we have a whole raft of technology roles, data roles, but we also have a lot of support roles, so corporate services, HR, commercial, finance, assurance and risk, business operational delivery. We have a big kind of programmatic organisation, so we run big programs, so we have a lot of project management roles, analyst roles, etc. So you don't have to be a coder, you don't have to, be able to build the technology. We are multidisciplinary teams that bring all of those different skills together in service of delivering. So there's a very wide range of roles in NHS Digital.
We're going to tap into that or talk about that a little later. But here's a pressing question, because I know a lot of our candidates will be really wanting to understand about your inclusiveness in your workplace. What are you doing to create an inclusive workplace, and how well is this culture embedded within the NHS Digital already? I'm going to stay with you, Julie, for that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll start, and then I think I will invite Amanda and others in, Rosa, because, as Chief People Officer, we established a people strategy a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, that actually had diversity and inclusion at the heart. We called it our golden thread. So in terms of everything that we thought about, whether it was our recruitment processes, our performance management processes, our learning offer, how do we make sure that we are creating a safe and inclusive environment where people can belong? And the diversity and inclusion chapter was the biggest in our people plan, with a lot of kind of commitments in terms of what we want to deliver for our organisation. So how well are we doing? We need to do better, is the honest answer. So we've been on a journey, we've gone a long way, we've got board commitment and the executive team commitment to this being a really serious business agenda that everybody is committed to. We've set ourselves some targets that people will hold us to account to in terms of representation. And we're working really hard to create an organisation where everybody can belong. But we are not perfect, and I think we've got a long journey to go on. One of the things that worries me, Rosa, is I don't think people are telling us, particularly from an ability perspective, they're not telling us whether they have a disability or a different ability. We have around 25% of our workforce who've not chosen to share that information with us. So on paper, it looks like 5% of our workforce would say that they have a disability. When we do surveys, it probably looks like more like 11 to 13%. So there's something systemically that we need to get underneath in terms of why do people not feel able to declare that status? What are they concerned about? And Amanda might pick up a little bit more about that in terms of the work she's been doing with the Ability Network. So kind of in a nutshell, it's something we are committed to, really passionate about. We've got a fantastic body of networks who are led by colleagues like Amanda, who are doing brilliant work with our colleagues. And inclusion is something that we talk about a lot in the organisation. So it's definitely on the agenda, but I would be lying if I said we were perfect at it and we'd kind of got this cracked. We need to do better in some areas. And, I'm really open to colleagues telling us how we can do better, particularly for colleagues on this call, potential candidates, in terms of how accessible we are as an organisation, and how confident they would feel about applying for a job with us.
It's a really interesting stat that you've brought up about how comfortable and how confident people feel about sharing their disability or their neurodiversity, isn't it? I wonder why that is, that people are feeling uncomfortable or not quite confident in doing so. There seems to be a lot of stigma and barriers that we still have to break down, and maybe people are unsure about how to approach it, how to bring it up, for fear of discrimination in some sort of sense. So we all do have to get better at enabling and helping people to have that voice and to be able to share their situation. So I really do appreciate your honesty in sharing that with us. Can you give us some success stories of what you have achieved within your diversity and inclusion policy? What have been some of the big wins? There could even be some small implementation or initiatives that you've found has been very successful.
I mean, I'll let Amanda talk a little bit more in terms of the Ability Network and what they've been able to do. I'll ask Amanda if she will pick up the kind of workplace adjustment passport and things that she's made instrumental in the recruitment process. So that's kind of something I'll let Amanda talk about. For me, there are a couple of big wins, actually. We are seeing a much more diverse candidate pool coming through in our recruitment processes. So we are reaching out to parts of the country and organisations and colleagues that we've not reached out to previously, and we're having some success in that. So we're starting to see that come through. We have recently reworked all of our recruitment processes to look at inclusion being more front and centre of those. Again, I'll let Amanda touch upon that. We're still learning, and there's still things that we can improve on that. We did a lot, as did a lot of organisations, around race and having that conversation around, things like micro incivilities as opposed to what people may have traditionally felt as bullying and harassment, those everyday micro behaviours that make people feel that perhaps they are not safe, they don't belong. And we've worked in partnership with an external provider called Pern Condola, who are ED&I experts, to help us do some upskilling, education across the whole organisation, but with our leadership team at all levels. As I say, the first time that the board and the exec team have committed to being held to account with some targets in terms of, publicly publishing them and looking to the organisation to hold us to account. I think one of the big things for me is I'm seeing a lot more dialogue about inclusion. So we have a campaign called What Matters to Me, and kind of what we do matters. And there's a lot more storytelling and a lot more people blogging about their lived experiences, both good and bad. But previously, we wouldn't have been seeing that dialogue happen in the organisation. And I think one of the things that I am seeing is a growing confidence of people finding their voice. So whereas previously, I'll give you an example, you asked where we work. We work in 4 main hub locations where our offices are. We have lots of regional offices now because Public Health England joined us last year, and they spread more across regional offices. But our 4 big locations are London, Leeds, Southport and Exeter. But as with everybody, we have been working more remotely through the pandemic, and we have an offer now that's more around hybrid working. So we want people to have access to the office facilities as and when they need them to be able to come together as a team. But we also have provision in place for people to work from home. And one of the things that I've seen recently is a little bit of pressure potentially from some line managers wanting people to come back into the office because that's their preference. And whereas previously those colleagues wouldn't have surfaced that, they raised it through the networks, and the network chairs went and had open conversations with those line managers just to challenge the why. And so these might feel like small things, but culturally, I think they are really big wins that we are kind of speaking truth to power, if you like, and calling out behaviours when we see them that will help create an environment where people can bring their whole self to work, which is ultimately, what we're striving for.
Fantastic. Yes, because, there's this whole conversation now around, oh, well, should people return to work? When do they return to work? And really, it's about everyone sitting around the table and having the conversation and having the choice to. Some people may feel that they don't have the choice, that they feel that there's an expectation that they must come back physically into the workspace. So it's really interesting that you've raised that. I think that's sort of a national conversation that's going around a lot of organizations, and people still want to have that choice. They want to have that conversation with their direct manager rather than feeling that it's compulsory that they must now come in to the office, because it may not suit everyone. Amanda, I do want to come to you, but I'd like to just stick with the vacancies and the jobs. There's 62 vacancies at the moment posted on your site. John, I'm going to come to you. Can you fill us in a little bit more about the types of roles? Julie did a great job, but I'd like you to talk to us a little bit more about the sorts of vacancies that you have and the skill sets that you're looking for.
That's a huge question. Because essentially, and thanks for asking it, essentially following on from what Julie said, we have such a diverse range of vacancies that it's kind of, we could talk about this for a very long time, but at the core of what we do, we are a digital first organization. So there are those core kind of digital skills that we look for. So people like developers, people like technical architects, the people that really helps design, code, and set up the services and the products that we deliver as an organization. But actually, in terms of the actual numbers of people in those roles, they are just a small part of the machine that makes our products and services work. So behind that, as Julie said, there's a whole cohort of people there that are managing the products and managing the delivery of those products. There's project management that goes into there as well, which is essential. So people are project or program managers, because we work with huge amounts of data, and we are the go-to repository for data. We've got people who are analysts that are working with that data on a day-to-day basis. So people have data skills, that's important. But then we've also got the products that we have. They need to be implemented and people need to use them, and the different organizations need to be supported with that. So we have business change specialists, we have people who are working on the implementation of those products and those services out with the different healthcare providers, the different trusts, etc. And then we have people who help and make the organisation run. So there's the central teams as well. So as with any large organisation, we've got finance, we've got HR, we have internal communications teams. The list really goes on. So essentially, if you've got a skill set, we will probably have a role somewhere in the organisation for you, or a need for somebody with your skills and experience.
Fantastic. And I know that Toby has just put into the chat box your careers vacancy page. So if people want to go and check out, I know that there's about 62 positions at the moment, but also we'll be putting up your careers page so people can see other information around diversity and inclusion and the benefits that you offer. John, I'd like to stay with you and ask you about, Julie was talking about a lot of work went into your recruitment process, making it accessible and inclusive. So what does the recruitment journey look like, and does it differ across the different job types?
And that's a great question as well, because I came into the organisation relatively recently, and it was almost at the start of this journey and the implementation of our adjustments of our recruitment journey. And what I would say is, in theory, across all our roles, that journey should be very, very similar, and that's what we're working to do. So it shouldn't really matter what skill set or what type of role or what level of role you're applying to. The experience you have as a candidate should be, and we're working for it to be the same. So the way the journey
can you give us
Yeah.
an example? Let's just say I'm a disabled candidate and I'm applying through your site. Can you just step me through that journey?
Absolutely.
What should I expect?
Okay. So once you apply for one of our vacancies, what you will be asked to do is upload a CV, which is fairly standard. And the way our system works, we try to remove bias wherever possible in our process. So our system will take the data, the information from your CV, and create essentially an application form, which you as an applicant can see, and you can edit and you can update to make sure it's pulled through all the relevant information. What we'll also ask you to do is create and write a supporting statement that sits alongside that application form. And essentially, when our hiring managers are reviewing somebody's application, they don't have sight of somebody's CV. What they have sight of is that application form and that supporting statement. And as I said, that is completely anonymized. So they are making their judgment based on the information that you provide. After that, once somebody is into that part of the process, what will then happen is a shortlisting, and that was done by panels. So usually there isn't one single person making a decision. So we've got we have a moderated process. So people are reviewed by a number of different people. Those applications are reviewed, and then it's into following that shortlisting. Obviously, successful candidates will be taken forward to the next stage. If somebody isn't successful at that stage, there is an opportunity for them to ask for us for feedback, and where we can, we will provide that.
John, I'm glad you said that. I'm going to share something with you. I've heard this on multiple occasions, as have some of my coach colleagues, that our candidates, when they apply for opportunities, some of them aren't even hearing back at all. They're not even getting an acknowledgement. And then there are others who've even gone through the interview process and they're still not even receiving feedback. It's shocking that candidates are being treated like that in the process. So tell me a little more, share with us about that feedback that you have in place.
It's done on a candidate by candidate basis. So some people don't ask for feedback and don't want feedback. So if somebody asks for feedback, it will usually come to the central recruitment team, and we will then go back to the whoever has been responsible for that shortlisting to ask for feedback. So sometimes, and I can talk about it a little bit later on, it is actually about how their application has been submitted and the information that's been provided there. And part of that comes back to, and we do stress this in the application process, that our hiring managers don't get view of your CV. So if you don't put the information into the application or into the supporting statement, they won't see it. So that's why it's really important that people do spend time on that application to make sure that they are providing as much information as possible.
There's somebody here called Simon. Simon has said this. Will this also include returners? As my CV currently says, care and PT, bar work, previously analyst and project management, though in the public sector. Simon, can you just expand what it is that you would like John to speak to when you say, will this also include returners? What do you mean by that? Give us a little more context so that John can answer that question for you, if you don't mind. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, that's absolutely fine. I've completely lost my train of thought now.
We were talking about the feedback.
We're talking about feedback. So at that stage, it's on a sort of a candidate request.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is that quite frankly, we get an awful lot of applications, as you can imagine, in terms of the NHS brand and the NHS Digital brand. But if people want feedback, absolutely, we will work to get that for them. We talk about the recruitment journey. It does, after this stage, it can vary slightly, and that depends on the type of role and the skills we're looking for. Because for some of our roles, we will have a technical assessment, and that will usually be some sort of online testing for a specific skill set. So that could be, for example, our testers, so our software testers, they will go through a short assessment on their testing skills because they're essential for the role. Once we're through, or if there isn't a testing stage like that, then again, the paths meet back up, and we go into then our core assessment stage. And for all our vacancies, for all our roles, we'll look at assessing two key areas. As you imagine, it's the technical skills for a technical role, but also as a competency-led organisation, we'll look at the core competencies that are needed for that particular role and for that level of role as well.
So do you have, are these you have core competencies for each role, is that right?
We have central competencies that the organisation is looking for, but then also within there's the technical competencies as well.
Yes, for that particular role. So if people wanting to find out a little bit more about that, do you communicate that in your recruitment process? So if it's just before I'm going to interview or whatever, you would communicate all of this, or is this available on your website so that people clearly understand what is expected of them at each stage of the recruitment journey?
So it should be. We're not perfect for the first. However, prior to interview, then yes, in the detail and the about the interview, you should be sent details of the competencies we're going to be looking for and looking to assess at that stage.
Okay. If an individual is looking for an accommodation or an adjustment of some sort, when can you offer that? Do you offer that at any stage?
Every stage. So right from the very, very beginning, if somebody does need support and adjustment and accommodation, then we would like to know so that we can start supporting where we can.
Okay.
If people don't ask, we can't support. But that goes right the way through to the start of the interview. If somebody does need something, they can ask at the start of the interview.
Okay.
But if they start, and we ask through the process as well, there are prompts through the process. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to say that people, it kind of goes back to what Julie was mentioned earlier about not everybody telling us what they need. We want to know because we can't make ourselves better and support those things if we don't know. And people should feel comfortable doing that. And I know that comes, these requests again come to the central recruitment team and are managed sensitively, and usually with the chair of the assessment panel, so that they are then aware that there needs to be an adjustment and support needs to be given and what that needs to look like. And
it's great to see that you've got these little probes that are sort of built in throughout the whole process to encourage people to share or discuss or disclose if they feel comfortable at that stage. What I'd like to do now is talk to you about what tips can you give candidates to help their application stand out, because you talk about there is organizational competencies, and then depending on the role there may be specific competencies that are needed. But give us an indication of, or give us your best tips to help somebody really maximize and make their application stand out.
And this is, and I'm going to say it's not rocket science. I think is the first thing I would say is review the advert, and review the advert again.
Okay, because I think we got that message, John. Why is that important?
Because fundamentally, we were usually telling exactly what we're looking for on the advert. So part of it is about what you're going to be doing in the role, but also about the key skills and experiences we'll be looking to see and understand from somebody when we're assessing their application and assessing them at interview. Alongside our adverts are, when somebody clicks onto one of our adverts and looks to apply, they should also see a link to a role profile on that page as well. And the role profiles have an awful lot of detail in them. And that is about, again, more about the day-to-day of the role, but also about some of the essential criteria we're looking for, and also the desirable criteria. So if people spend time looking at that, they then can then look at how they tailor their application, and particularly their supporting statement, to make sure that they are focusing that around the key needs of that role. Okay. and what they're going to be doing. And that, of the feedback, when we are asked for feedback of why somebody's been unsuccessful at shortlisting, I would say the biggest reason is because they've not put that information in there. And it comes back to and they'll say, oh, it's on my CV. But this goes back to, again, our hiring managers don't see the CV. They see this anonymized information.
This is really, really important to everyone. Yeah. Listen to what John's saying. So they will not see your actual CV, because they're wanting to remove any unconscious bias. The supporting statement is really critical. So, John, can you explain to us what a supporting statement is? How long does it need to be? Are you asking multiple questions? Or is it simply tell us how you meet the key selection criteria for this role?
So we for some of our roles, we will ask some questions in there on the advert for people to focus the supporting statements around. How long it needs to be, we would say no more than 1,500 words. But then what I would suggest is, if there isn't any prompt in the advert, it's about, again, comes back to thinking about, how can I demonstrate that I've got the relevant skills and experience to be able to be successful in this role, or to be the right kind of person for this role. And that's what our hiring managers are looking for, and that's what they will review. So spend time on it, don't rush it. I always think I'm the kind of person who does rush things. I'm very impatient. So actually, start your supporting statement, write it in Word or something like that, and go back to it before you submit it to make sure that you're happy with it. And it is really, if you sit with that alongside the advert, alongside the role profile, reviewing to make sure, is this right? Is this answering the question? Because it's very easy as individuals for us to think, well, I know I can do that. But actually, if you don't tell somebody, don't explain how and why you can do it, then unfortunately our hiring managers aren't able to see that. So that's really important, that people do that in terms of preparation. I think also spending some time before their interview preparing as well, and understanding. We tend to ask competency type of situational questions. So that's about asking individuals to give us an example of a time when they have demonstrated these competencies or this experience. Mm-hmm. So have a think about those examples.
So they need to be able to back it up. You have to back it up with some evidence or examples. And for anyone who's interested, please go along to the Hive. We have some fabulous articles that have got some simple formulas, such as STAR.
I was about to mention STAR.
STAR or PAR, that can help you craft your answers and keep it nice and structured. And again, it's exactly as John says, go back and understand the competencies and the key requirements of the role. That will tell you where you need to focus your energy on, and in terms of providing your examples. John, I just wanted to share with you, I've had someone here who's mentioned Yvette, thank you, Yvette, for posting this. I considered removing the dates from my CV to eliminate aged bias. Is this a bad idea for NHS digital applications? I have a great CV with tech and PM experience.
I would say no. It's not to remove them, because it shows how much experience you have, and it's that middle ground between demonstrating that you have got the skills. It's certainly, from my point of view, I wouldn't see any bias against.
I think of that, you should take a look at the 62 vacancies that are on the NHS Digital careers site right now. If you've got some tech and PM experience, take a look and see what there is. We've also Julie, who said Julie's answered that, so thank you, Julie. We've also got Tommy here who's saying, are you open to speculative applications?
That's very difficult for us to work with speculative applications. What I would say is, so that the answer realistically is no, because we have no real way to trace them through our system. However, what I would say is that, because our website says we've got 662 vacancies at the moment, that is not the actual number of vacancies there are at NHS Digital. There are significantly more than that. And what we try to do is we try to work in campaigns. So where we've got similar vacancies, we will try to go out to market with them together. So we're attracting large numbers of people to those vacancies. What I would say is that through our careers site, you can register for updates. Yeah. And so when a role comes on with the right kind of skills and experience, or right type of job for you, the website will email you. You'll receive an email, and then you can apply for the role.
Okay, so that job alerting you offer.
Job alert, yeah.
And it's as soon as you post into your system, if somebody has a job alert set up, they will automatically get emailed that job, correct?
They do, yeah.
Okay,
yes.
That's a really good way to keep on top, because we've had a gentleman say there doesn't seem to be any applications for people like me in Glasgow. Remember, some jobs might be hybrid and some might be digital. Set up your job alert, because there may be opportunities coming to you soon. We're getting a lot of questions here, and I know I do want to move on to Amanda, but quickly, John, do you ever utilize access to work funding for people with disability to support further?
Yes.
I was going to say, I'm going to pass that on to somebody else. Amanda.
Amanda, can we reintroduce you again? Thank you so much for your patience. Did you want to answer that question?
For sure. The answer is yes, we do. So our central workplace adjustments team, which is a new phrase in this forum, and I'll explain a little bit more hopefully when you ask me another question, but we have a team at NHS Digital that works closely with Access to Work and supports individual staff who are eligible to use that service, and we marry the provisions of that service with the service that we offer as an organisation to make sure that we've got a 360-degree approach to supporting people.
That sounds excellent. Can I get you to explain Access to Work, first of all? Some people may not be aware of it or what it is. And then you said you also marry that with your own NHS Digital support. I'd like you to talk us through a little of that too, if you don't mind.
No problem at all. So Access to Work is a government-funded scheme for people with disabilities, and it is open to anyone to apply to get support, and that support covers a wide span of stuff, really, from equipment to interpreters to transport to and from work. the transport element has got a slightly different name, but it's got the same ethos behind it, if you like. So there's a whole bundle of stuff. It's not talked about very much at all. You very rarely see it referenced in the press or on social media, but it's well worth having a look at. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
and sure. And when I say that we marry that up, so I think that dovetails me neatly into our workplace adjustment service. Okay, I love this service, I have to tell you now.
I can feel it, and I'm sure you're going to tell us some stories. So share with us, please.
Yeah, so as someone who is unapologetically disabled, okay, I have both visible and invisible disabilities. I'm blind, and I have several chronic conditions. I have both a personal vested interest in this and also a wider interest in my roles with, people's interests at heart hat on. So the workplace adjustments team is a relatively new service. We set it up last year, and John and Julie, or John mainly, I think, has touched on how we support disabled applicants through the recruitment process. Yeah. But of course, adjustments aren't just for recruitment, they're kind of for working life. Successful candidates who then come to work for us will need those adjustments, not only putting in place, but also refreshing, maintaining and reviewing. And the centralised adjustment service is there for exactly that reason. So once the team so there's a one-stop shop. There's a centralised mailbox that you can write to. There's a telephone number, and one of the team will, speak to you about your adjustment needs. They will make sure that you have access to any assessments that you might need. Be they external or internal. You might need expert advice on the type of adjustments that you need, for example, and the team will facilitate that service for you. And they will then procure the recommended equipment that you need. Most of the equipment they procure is kind of like the obvious things, like special chairs for musculoskeletal conditions. I can never say that word, but you know what I mean, I'm sure. And specialist mice. There's also software like screen readers and speech to screen and vice versa. Other common things are caption enabling software and stuff like that. And the team, it's when I use the word disability in this context, I think when I'm talking about the workplace adjustments team, their reach is slightly broader than disability. So disability is at the heart of what they do. But if you have a difference of a kind that affects how you work, then the team will help you. So say, for example, you don't define yourself as disabled, but at work you need to sit near a fridge because you need to keep medicine in it. The team will help with that. Say, for example, you're scared of heights and you've got to go up to a higher floor. The team will help you work through that and find a solution for you. If you need to sit near the loos, you don't need to tell the team why, but they will help facilitate that adjustment for you. So it is wider than just disability. But
that's fantastic. That keeps it very, very open and fluid, and it means that anyone who has a condition, or even if they haven't disclosed it or shared it at interview stage and whatever, has a pressing need, that they can discreetly contact your team and get the support that they need. So that's very, very flexible, isn't it?
Well, and that's exactly how it's designed to work. And I think it goes back to something, Rosa, at the very beginning, which is people's fears about saying something. And one of the reasons that we centralised it was so that people had a one-stop shop that was away from their business area. So we removed the need to, it's a different thing telling a team that sits elsewhere that you need to sit near the toilet than it is, for example, I'm taking it down to the very basic level. That's where it often hits people the hardest. It's quite different to have that conversation with someone in a team sitting over there, if you like, than it is with having it with your line manager.
Sure. I'm going to share something here, Amanda. Charlotte, thanks for sharing this. I work for a company that is trialing a project to provide supportive technology alongside a mentor as part of access to work for people with learning disabilities and autism. So thank you very much for sharing that. Somebody's also said here, hi, I need to know what the system has to support or manage Africans applying for vacancies like me. We might come back to that one, to John on that a little bit later, but we want to stick with Amanda at the moment. Amanda, I know that you have an employee-led disability network at NHS Digital. I would like you to share with us a little more about that and also what your future vision is for this fabulous initiative.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. So our network is called the Ability Network. It is the Disability Network, and it's staff-led. Okay, we have the support of a truly wonderful executive sponsor, and I'm not saying that just because she's on this call. Truly, I'm not, but we have, as all our networks have. Our membership is open to really anyone who works here. Obviously, I think it's fair to say the vast majority of us are disabled in one or many ways, both visibly and or invisibly. And I think it's fair to say that among our number, we represent a pretty decent mix of the types of disability and or differences that we see in society at large. Yeah, so we are, broadly speaking, we're a fair reflection. But we also have members who aren't disabled at all, but who have a keen interest in supporting us through advocacy or other means to achieve our aims. And we call those our allies. The network itself has been around for around 4 years now. And it's, as I said, it's entirely run by staff with the advice and support of our sponsor. I think an important note in the margin of this is that we also work very closely with our other staff networks. And I say this because to me, intersectionality, which is probably quite a big word, but it basically means that we all have differences, if you like. So, you know, we can be disabled and gay, or we can be disabled and have another protected characteristic as well. So at some point, our needs become as one on many levels. So we work closely with our other staff networks, including our LGBTQ+ community, our ethnic minorities community, family and carers, and faith-based communities. We work alongside each other and together in various ways, where we all have a vested interest in, for example, influencing corporate policies to support the principles of inclusion in our workplace.
There's a lady here asking, Amanda, the Ability Network and workplace placement, is there a website for me to look at? Is this something that's more internal when somebody has joined your NHS Digital, or is this something that somebody who's not yet an employee can take a look at? Or do you have any information on this, marketing information on this?
God, you know, that's such a brilliant question, because it just triggers a thought in my head. Actually, we do not have an outward facing web presence on either of those 2 points, Rosa. So thank you very much for the person who's raised that question. I'm afraid I have to say that there isn't anything outward. There isn't an external website with that information. But if you wanted to ask more questions, I'm sure that my contact details will be provided. Rosa, is that right?
Yes, I see this. I see that Charlotte has posted some things as well. If we can make sure that that gets out to everyone, so thank you for that. But maybe that's something that you may look at. Knowing you, Amanda, that's probably something that you'll probably want to look at straight after this. Can you tell us the benefits or the impact this sense of allyship and network has? You know, at the very grassroots levels, how is this helping people?
Sure. So as a network, Rosa, we operate on two different levels, I think it's fair to say, broadly speaking. So if I start with the person-centered level, okay, so we provide a lot of individual one-to-one advice and support to the many people who reach out to us for whatever reason that is related to disability and difference in the workplace. So some common things include information and advice on appropriate adjustments, and the network works very closely alongside the central team that I've been talking about here. An emerging theme, this year, that was my machine. Sorry about the noise, it's distracting. So an emerging theme this year is the topic of neurodiversity, neurological difference, people needing support, not only for themselves with a diagnosis or perhaps suspecting that they may need a diagnosis. That's another question that we can help with, but also their manager and their wider team to help everybody understand the condition and how best to support the individual who has it, because it's never just the individual who is affected. Yeah. So as well as the individual level, working at that level, we are also, as a network, along with our sister networks, we are invited to influence and shape organisation level initiatives. So, for example, the recruitment process that John has been talking you through in terms of the considerations within it around disability. The network has had considerable influence over that, and is currently in partnership with the process owners, reviewing the process to see if we can make it even better from a disabled applicant's perspective. So it's a cycle of continuous improvement. Another example, so this very morning I was at the Corporate Health and Safety Committee meeting on behalf of the network, and I was providing input on the accessibility of our training materials that everybody, the training that everybody has to undertake, to make sure that it is suitable for our disabled community. The network is consulted on policy drafting to make sure that it's fair. And our members are often asked to test new software that's planned for release internally, to make sure that everybody will be able to use it. So, our voice as the disabled community is actively encouraged, it's fair to say, in terms of influencing the organisation's EDI agenda. And we also, as I mentioned, we have a direct route into our executive team via our sponsor, if and when we need it. And I think it's fair to say, Rosa, that not everything in the world is perfect, and I would never claim that it is. So we also do a fair bit of work spotting issues before they grow into something bigger, and we work with the business to fix whatever that problem might be. So one example of that is that we know that other people's attitudes towards disabled people can be problematic. I'm sure that would resonate with everyone on the call. often not on purpose at all, but nevertheless can make our lives feel difficult or uncomfortable at times. And as a network, we received executive support to commission some special training for recruiters around inclusive recruitment behaviours. Yes?
Yes.
So that was for panels.
Very, very important, because that's a group that really needs to understand and build their awareness. So it's lovely to see this. Amanda, it sounds to me as though the collaboration that's going on with everyone at the top right down to the very bottom and everything in between, it's so important that everyone is actively working on this together. It's lovely to hear this collaboration going on.
Thank you, Rosie. Yes, I think it's fair to say, and I think it's fair to say we do, as a network, we do a lot of stuff. Things aren't perfect. But as a disabled person myself, as I said, with both invisible and visible things going on, I genuinely believe that as an organisation, we are some way ahead of others when it comes to supporting its disabled community. And I have no skin in the game. I have no reason to sit here and say that other than if it were true. My work is at the heart of ensuring that the needs of our disabled community are protected. And as I said this morning, nothing's perfect. I would never claim that. But of course, if it was perfect, we wouldn't need an ability network.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
And
thank goodness, Amanda, it's you that's at the helm of it.
Say that again, Rosa. I missed it.
Thank goodness it's you that's at the helm of it.
Well, it's certainly not all down to me by a long chalk. I just happened to be the mouthpiece this afternoon.
and a very good mouthpiece you are. I do think that's taking us towards the end of the show, everyone. We hope that you feel that you've been informed and educated with regards to NHS Digital, who they are, their recruitment process, the sort of opportunities that they have, and how they approach their diversity and inclusion, and the fantastic disability network that they have. It really does demonstrate the power of allyships. I do want to thank everyone for attending today. Julie and John and Amanda, and I know that Mercy, that you were sort of in the background there, but you've all contributed to a fantastic Meet the Employer today, and we really want to thank you all for your time.
Well, thank you, Rosa. Things have gone very quiet.
I think that we're going to finish there. Everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. Please feel free to check out our up-and-coming Meet the Employers and indeed our coaching webinars and workshops. If you haven't already, please go to the About Us section and check out our events page at www.evenbreak.co.uk. Thank you all for joining us. Bye.
Thank you, Rosa. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.